What's going on, guys? Welcome to the official launch of something brand new on the channel that really isn't in this space. So what we've done throughout the offseason is we've ranked, evaluated, looked at these players, dug into the tape, prepared for the War Room podcast, is we wanted to come up with a model to actually grade these players in a way that's going to be relative to where they're drafted. And so what we did is we built a real scouting system for this draft, and here's how it kind of works. Because, I mean, every mock draft, you see the same problem, right? Nobody shows their work. You're going to see a guy ranked 7th on one board, 15th on another, 4th on the third. And if you ask any of them why, let's say Ruben Bain is the number 1 overall player on someone's board, but then he's 7th on another, you're going to get the same answer kind of every time. They like the tape, they like this guy, they think this guy's a first rounder. Maybe they'll throw out a player comp. There's no system behind it, there's no structure, and there's no standard that applies the same way to every single player. And that changes today. We built a scouting model, it's a real one. It grades every prospect against actual NFL players at their position. It separates film from athleticism, from production, and from projection. And then what it does is it produces a single number and a tier that tells you exactly where we think the player belongs in the draft. It's called the War Room Prospect Grade, the WRPG. And starting today, every evaluation we do on the channel, every ranking, every board, it's going to run through it. So I want to show you how it works. And so here's what most people get wrong about scouting. And I say this as someone who's been in coaching rooms where you actually have to make decisions based on evaluation, not just talking about it online. Most draft boards, they mix up 3 completely different questions. Question 1, how good was the player actually in college? What was their production? What was their stats? What were the awards that they received? Then the second question, how good are they actually going to be in the NFL in the scheme, the situation that you draft them into? So you got to project them. How are they going to translate? What's their ceiling? What's their floor? And then the third question, how valuable is the position of where you're going to draft them? What is the draft capital that it's going to cost? Are they, a quarterback or are they a punter? There's going to have to be a scale for that. And so what most boards do is they mash it into one number, and what the War Room player grade is going to do is separate them and put together a composite ranking. And so ultimately, this is what we call separate evaluations when you look at a player. Because a guard might be a better pure football player than a wide receiver, but the receiver might be more valuable because of what the position is worth now in the modern NFL. And for me in this class, the best ranked player is a running back, and he's got the best tape, the most athleticism, but his positional shelf life changes where you would probably draft him. And so that's kind of how they mash it together and call it a ranking. But what we do is they all get a pure prospect grade that's going to tell you how good they are regardless of position. Then we layer in positional value and risk factors to produce the final draft board grade. That way I can tell you, and then you can see for yourself exactly why a player is ranked where he is. It's no vibes, no I just feel like he's a first rounder. We now got a system. And so this is the system. We got 5 grading categories, and I've kind of built them out to where they've got different weights. And so category 1 is going to be the heaviest one, right? It's film grade. It's 40% of the total score. It's going to be the background. It's going to be my coach's eye. Liam's eye is evaluating talent and being in film and looking at statistics. What does the tape actually say about this player's technique, his processing, his competitive toughness, his play speed? Not just highlights you can find on YouTube, not just the splash plays, the full tape. Every snap, the boring plays that tell you more than the exciting ones. And so that's how we have film weighted at 40%, because I believe the tape, the eye in the sky, is the single most important factor in evaluating a prospect. If the tape doesn't say it, the combine doesn't fix it. And so then the category 2 is going to be the athletic profile, and we got it at 20%. And that's because it's the physical toolkit they're going to play in the NFL. The size, the length, the explosiveness, the movement skills, combine testing, the relative athletic scores, durability. What tools does this player bring to the NFL? A great athlete with average tape is a developmental project. Great tape with average athleticism is a guy who might have a lower ceiling. You need both to be a truly elite prospect. And so then we get to the third category. What was their actual production and resume in college? Because stats do matter, But what is the context behind them? Was it a guy producing against SEC competition or the Mid Athletic Conference? Was he a 1-year wonder or 3-year starter? Did his numbers come in a system that inflates stats, or did he earn every yard in a pro style offense? I'm looking at the career output, the efficiency, the competition level, and whether the box score matches what we see on tape. And so then that's where you get to the fourth category. How do you think they're going to project to the NFL? And that's the translation question. Some players dominate in a college system that doesn't exist in the NFL. Some players have skills that project beautifully even if their college stats don't jump off the page. I'm grading their scheme versatility, their starter probability, the gap between the ceiling and the floor, and how long it's going to take for the player to contribute. A day one starter is different from a 2-year project, even if the ceiling is the same. And that's where we get to the last category, the actual intangibles, the ungradable stuff in a prospect. Their football IQ, their competitive toughness, leadership, coachability. The stuff that doesn't show up in a stat sheet but absolutely shows up in a locker room. 10% might sound small, but it's the tiebreaker. When two players have similar grades everywhere else, the one with better intangibles gets the edge every time. That's kind of the 5 pillars of this. Film is still king. Athleticism matters, but it doesn't overpower what's on tape. Production supports evaluation. Projection accounts for the NFL transition, and intangibles break the ties. That's the foundation. And now here's the part that's going to make this completely different than any other grading scheme out there is each category is graded on a 1 through 9 scale, and every single number on that scale is going to be anchored to a real player in the league right now at that position. And so what we've done is a 9 means it's elite, it's rare. And at edge rusher, for a 9, it's going to be Myles Garrett, the sack leader with an insane athletic profile. At safety, it's going to be Kyle Hamilton, the dude that shows up all over the field, that can play at any position, is an absolute freak in nature. At wide receiver, I've got a 9 as Jamar Chase. Dude runs a 4.4, can run any route in every tree, physically explosive, has only done great things at the position, and that's what the 9 is supposed to be. Best of best position in the entire NFL. And almost no college prospect is going to earn a 9 on film. If I give a prospect a 9 in any category, I'm saying he's doing something on tape that only the very best players in the league can do. That's a statement that I don't make lightly. And so then an 8 means it's going to be an all-pro caliber player. And so at edge rusher, it's going to be your Will Andersons, Micah Parsons of the world. At quarterback, that's going to be that lower tier of like the Justin Herberts of the world. At safety, my brain thinks Xavier McKinney, Brian Branch. They're top 5, top 10 players at their position. If I give a prospect an 8, I'm telling you the trait looks like what a top 10 NFL player does. That's where elite prospects live. And then a 7 means they're an NFL starter. They have Pro Bowl upside. Think Tre'Davious White back when he was prime in his corner. Terry McLaurin at receiver. Cortland Sutton at receiver. Bo Nix at quarterback. These are clear, consistent NFL starters. They can make an impact. This is where most good first-round prospects should land on film. A 7 is a really good grade. Don't let that number fool you. And then a 6 is above average. And then a 5 is the NFL average threshold. Below 5, you're into concern territory. There's some very bad below average traits, weaknesses that can be exploited, limitations that's going to keep you off the field. So here's why this matters. When I tell you a prospect has a 6.5 film grade at edge rusher, I'm not just saying he's pretty good. I'm telling you his tape looks like a solid rotational NFL player right now. Not a franchise changer, not a guy that you're going to just build your entire defense around, but a contributor. That number means something specific because it's measured against real NFL performance. And that's what kills grade inflation. I can't hand out 8 and 9s like candy because I'd be seeing a college kid's tape looks like Myles Garrett. I have to actually believe that. And most of the time I don't. Most of the time even the best prospects in a draft class land in the 7 range on film. And that's a great prospect, but it's an honest evaluation. And so now we've got 5 category scores, but how does it turn into a ranking? And so that's what we've done is we've weighted the scores. You've got the 40% athleticism at 20 and so on and combined into a weighted average. That average gets converted into what I call the pure prospect grade. This tells you how good this player is as a football, period. No positional bias, no draft context, just how good you are. But then what we do is we add a positional value modifier because this is the NFL, not an All-American team. Quarterbacks and edge rushers change franchises. Guards and running backs, as much as they do matter on the football field, they don't carry the same draft capital. So a quarterback in our scale gets a +3 modifier. An edge rusher, we're giving a 2.5. And then a running back, the least valuable position in football, minus kicker and punter, they get a 0.3. It's small enough to where these don't distort the board, but big enough that it's going to matter on the margin when we rank a player where they should be drafted. And so then the third step that we have are actual risk flags. And every prospect gets evaluated for different risk factors. Medical history, age, 1-year starter, competition level, technical rawness, off the field concerns, scheme dependency, positional ambiguity. And each flag is going to cost you 1 point off the board grade. It's a clean prospect, no discount. A guy with 2 flags, he loses 2 points. It's transparent. You're always going to know why. And so if you put it all together, what you're going to end up with is what we call the War Room player grade. And the number, it matches to a tier where they actually should be drafted. And so a generational player is going to be a 93 plus or above grade. That means they are a #1 overall prospect. Cannot miss no matter what happens. You're drafting them #1 overall. Blue chip means they're an all-pro player, going to come right out of the gate, and they deserve to be drafted top 5, 10 overall. A high first-round grade, it means like, hey, they're a top 15 player historically, not necessarily just for the class, but top 15, like against a historical mapping of players from the past 5 years. High first round, or true first round, it's where a lot of first round pick grades fall in the class. So whether, okay, picks 20 through 32, what you normally see in the back half of the first round. This is a good player. This is worth picking in the first round. And then you got late first, early second, rounds 1 to 2. These are where the majority of players you're going to see picked actually in the first round. They're going to fall in a grade here. And then a lot of players that get picked on day 2 and day 3, they're going to fall in this second round grade of a 78 to an 80.9. And then after that, the majority of the class, honestly, is going to fall in day 3 value. And that's where you just see a lot of teams start making picks based off of, well, where do they fall in that range to their positional value, to our need, and how much we want them. And then fringe back-end players, if you're falling in this, you're not draftable. That's just kind of how the tier system works out. All right. I get it. Enough explaining. We went into nerd territory. Let's show you how it actually works with the real prospect. And so here we got Caleb Downs' film pulled up here. He's a safety out of Ohio State. Most people are going to have him as the consensus top 5 player in the class. Some boards have him as the #1 overall player. And so what I want to do is run him through the War Room player grade, and let's see where he actually lands. And so the first grade is going to be the film grade, the 40%. And at safety, we have Kyle Hamilton at 9. Hamilton is the most versatile, athletic, complete safety in the NFL. Elite in coverage, elite against the run, elite as a blitzer. He does everything. And then at 8, I have the Brian Branch, Xavier McKinney tier. All pro caliber, top 5 at the position tier, and then at 7 is your Pro Bowl starter. That's the scale I'm working with. So where does Downs land on this scale? All right, so what we got pulled up here is a tempo play of Penn State against Ohio State. They're operating the red zone, going quick, and Caleb Downs have to communicate the back of the field. You've got what I still believe is Drew Aller still healthy here, pulled up, getting ready to make a play. Look at Caleb Downs, the top right-hand corner. He's going, he gets in motion, he gets to his man, he reads the eyes, falls back in coverage, pick in the red zone. Really great processing. He read the formation really quickly, communicated the adjustment. Post-snap, he diagnoses the route and makes the play. That's NFL-level processing to me. That is things that you see NFL safeties do time and time again. I actually really like this tight view, too, of this play. Watch him go to work here. Look, reads the eyes. Oh, pick, feet down. Incredible. Now we've got Caleb Downs kind of lined up in this little slot box that I like to call him, where he's going to make a living in the NFL rolling them down. And so what we're going to see here is he's exactly reading the eyes of the quarterback here. He's lined up in the slot, and they're going to ask him to look and make a play and drive on the football, and he processes it, puts the head down, peanut punch, balls out, play made. Exactly what we need to see here. The third piece of him lined up in kind of the same alignment here. Now he's getting lined up in the box in the run game, sticking his head into it, goes and makes the tackle, 2-yard gain. That's the difference between 5 to 7 yards or just 2 yards in the NFL. Here we're seeing him right back again in the red zone. eyes look, makes the process, he goes and makes the hit. And that's exactly what we want to see out of a box safety in the NFL. Incredible, elite processing. Athleticism isn't jumping off the tape, but he's always exactly where he needs to be, making the right play at the right time. Now, at the same time, there are some concerns where I see a little bit of a gap here in his play. He still ends up making the play, but it's what's going to make me think, like, is the athleticism quite where we want it to be? This is against, I believe, Max Clare. No, Lawson Lucky, the tight end out of Texas. He's an NFL tight end in this. This is Arch Manning rolling out, making a play, throwing it, and Caleb Downs is there, makes the play on the football for a small gain. But you can kind of see the size come into play, and it's where I see the gap is when you match him up on big physical tight ends. He gives ground on the stem, but he's physical through it, but still a contested catch situation, the tight end makes up for it. And so him standing at 6 feet, 205, he's on the smaller side for a safety, and he's going to be asked to match against these NFL tight ends. Hamilton, he's 6'4", 220, and to me, that's the size gap that's going to matter in the league. So on film, I think Downs is outstanding. His processing is elite. His versatility is real. He, doesn't have maybe the elite size, but the ball production is there. And so I'm going to give him his film grade, as crazy as it sounds. I'm going to give it an 8.5. And to me, that's right around where he's been ranked. He's, going to be floor solid NFL starter to almost an all-pro caliber player. It's a really strong grade, but it's honest. He's not some generational safety prospect that a lot of people have made him out to be. He's a really good football player. And so now we're sitting here and we actually got, his grade that we're actually going to build out. And so every single template that you see like this, it's always going to come from, an Excel model that we actually have built out that's going to grade these players live. And so I want to show you the model in real time of how it's actually going to work for Caleb Downs here. Yes, let's watch this operate in real time, right? And so, we talked about the film grade, what we liked from it, and I've gone back and forth on what I think it is. Sometimes I think, I can see him being just the best safety in the NFL at 9. Sometimes I go back to 8.5, but for the purposes of this, since I do think he's one of the best players in the class, I'm going to go with his film grade at 9. And athleticism, we've talked about it. He's 6'2", 205. It's not bad. He's not as fast as you would really love. He's not quite as big and physical as the freakiest guys in the league. And I think he's just slightly below average to, starter level in the league at athleticism. And for me, that gives it to where he's at a 6.5. Now, production in college. Now, I don't think that his production was quite on the level of Charles Woodson, who won the Heisman or the Honey Badger in Heisman contention, but he did win the Jim Thorpe Award. He had at least 3 interceptions across, every single season at Ohio State. He won a national championship. I think that the production score is a solid 8 for the NFL of being an all-pro caliber player. The intangibles, obviously, we saw it, on the grade, right? We're at the projection level here. And his projection, you can easily project him based off of what scheme he gets into, developing into to being a top 3 safety in the league. Just based off of the film, the tape, the way he's played, what I've seen, where I think he's going to go. I think that is a realistic expectation for a prospect like this. And the last piece is the intangibles, the swing factor. And, for him, the intangibles are off the charts. He's interviewed well everywhere he goes. He knows the game of football, and that's why he's regarded so highly as how instinctual he is playing the game. And so when you put that in, we actually get the finalized War Room grade. And so, there you go. That's how we get, the War Room grade, actually. And that's the power of the system. It's going to force you to justify every number that you give to the NFL. It doesn't care about maybe consensus grades. It doesn't care about the hype of the individual, of this is a generational top 5 player ever. It asks one question. What does the tape say when you measure it against the best players in the league? And for Caleb Downs, he's still sitting in a really, really great position. To me, the pure grade is 87.2 on, 100 scale. If we remember our tier chart here, that lands him, clearly in a high first round talent, top 15 player in the class. For me, the key concern is going to be his size versus NFL tight ends in coverage. I don't see any risk flags with him. I think the positional value's there, and even though maybe the athleticism and the position lowers the grade down, he's still worthy of a top 10 pick, which is exactly where I think a lot of NFL teams see Caleb Downs. And so, what does this mean for the channel, for us, the viewers, as we're going through the Sideline Drill in the future? What you're going to expect throughout this entire month leading up to the NFL draft is we're going to get player cards made for every single first round pick in the league, and it's going to be graded, weighted, and measured off of the War Room player grade. And that's what we're going to have coming. You're going to see the score, you're going to see the tier, and you're going to see the one sentence verdict. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok so you don't miss us actually dropping the carousels of the player grades. But going forward on Tuesdays and Fridays every week, I'm going to release a top 5 position video right here on YouTube. It's going to be the top 5 edge rushers on Tuesday, and I'm going to grade every single one of them through the War Room player grade. We're going to show the film, show the math, the full board, and that's what we're going to bring to it on draft night. Because on April 23rd, Liam and I are going live right here on YouTube for the entire first round. The War Room player grade board is going to be on the screen. Every pick, we're going to show you the grade and tell you whether we think it's a value pick, a reach, or exactly where we had them. It's not going to be opinion-based. You're going to be in a draft war room with us. So if you want to follow along for the rest of draft season, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and if you think your friends care about the draft, send them this video. Tell them there's a new way to evaluate prospects. Tell them to come to the war room. Because it's the film first, the number second. That's the War Room way. I'm going to see you guys on Tuesday.